Kevin Stefanski is kind of held in high regards across, the league as far as fans think that, if this situation was to go south and he was to lose his job, that he'd have another job in a heartbeat. And very well, that might be the case, right? That might be true. But I do also think that sometimes, time is just up in certain places. I know that I have a very strong opinion on Kevin Stefanski that it changed a couple years ago. It took about 4 seasons for me to come to the conclusion of I think the Browns are better served if they just move on and go in a different direction. And I got plenty of reasons to point to why I feel that way. But the point that I'm making is it very well possibly be that Kevin Stefanski still has some good coaching in him and that just the situation with him in Cleveland has run its course. And if that's the case, then to me, that's okay because we're sitting here talking about a coach like Mike Tomlin possibly being fired. And it's the same situation, right? The only difference is he's had far more success than Kevin Stefanski
no
has
losing
had,
seasons.
Right? So to me, those are things to where, not everything is for a lifetime. Some things for a season. And everything in this world
has it's either a season or a reason. Look at you. Go ahead.
Everything in this world, man, it has an end date to it, right? And that's just the reality of the situation. And then when you hear him talk about, some of the options that could be available to him, he said the number one choice was Mike Tomlin. He said they should have never fired Mike Vrabel. He talked about Callahan being the offensive play caller guy. It sounds like to me that their first priority is to get a culture builder. Mm-hmm. Nonetheless, if this is an offensive or defensive guy, can this guy be somebody that establishes the culture?
I wonder if the reason why people respect Kevin Stefanski so much outside of our area is because they maybe have a different perspective of the dysfunction that goes on with the Browns. And because we live it every day, we kind of see different nooks and crannies, so we pick at different aspects. But I think nationally they see that we have ownership who goes back and forth between meddling. We have upper management who sometimes has more reach over the organization than maybe what is in usual circumstances. We don't really know who's in charge with Steve Podesta leaving. So I think those are the reasons why people give him a lot of bail, because there's a lot of different things that who would succeed under these kind of circumstances, right? I think Kevin Stefanski, if he had total control, I don't think that he couldn't build a culture. But I think here it's unable to happen because there's somewhat of a power struggle, or the way that the power structure is built, it doesn't allow for him to maybe exercise the power he has. Think if you're a manager in a retail store, right? If I'm the manager, I get kind of carte blanche to run my store how I want to run my store. Mm-hmm. But if my DM says, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that, X, Y, Z, right? Then, am I really able to run my business? I don't know if Kevin Stefanski can really run his business as far as I get to choose everything. I get to determine whether this guy goes, this guy leaves, who gets traded, who doesn't, or my say has more sway because I'm the guy who has to coach these guys up. So, we look at different things that have happened. If we just go to the quarterback situation, you got rid of Pickett and Flacco, and then you just left yourself with 2 rookies, a guy with a bum Achilles, and then you got to go find a guy. I don't think that a guy who's a coach will want to put himself in that situation where I don't have guys that I can lean on and trust with a particular level of experience. So when you talk about building culture and his respect level, I think it has more to do about the circumstances being here with the organization of the Browns more so than anything he's done in particular.
So it's funny that you say that, right? Because at some point over the summer before or over the spring, I had some comments along the lines of, we never knew up until this season how much power he had, how much say he had. There are some that speculated and believed that he has never really had a say in when it comes to who's going to play quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And I remember saying something along the lines of, with so much on the line this year, then Kevin Stefanski's voice should be the only voice or the loudest voice as it comes to picking this position based on the sole fact of, well, not even sole fact, but the opinion of he's never really had that much power to do so. And I thought it was quite interesting. I put that out on social media, and Josh Cribbs actually took that, and he kind of responded to it with his own comment. I think you remember when that took place. And Josh kind of alluded to the fact of that would be doing Kevin a disservice And so I kind of looked at it like, okay, well, which one is it, right? Do you want Kevin to have to be empowered to make these decisions, or do you feel like it shouldn't be all on him because if it goes left, then it's going to be all eyes or all fingers pointed at him? I think that when he first got here, he was doing things to assist in changing the culture and building a positive culture. But I think somewhere something went left. Don't know exactly what it is, when it happened, but something went left. And it seemed like we haven't been able to get this train back on the right track ever since.
I think some of it is just based off of the guys that you went and decided to take chances on. None of them really worked to the extent that you maybe had hoped. You look at, all right, you went and got a dynamic receiver. Didn't work out. You went and tried to go get an opposite edge of Miles. Didn't work out. I wonder, that's why I say I don't know how much control he has, because would he have went and gotten some of these guys? Maybe he would have maybe chose somebody else. It's hard to pinpoint who is really the accelerator for this always being kind of stuck in the mud, because we have no real clear messaging from them on what they're doing.
There is going to be another Netflix special, another Netflix documentary that is going to air at some point in my lifetime, and it's going to be about the dysfunction of the Cleveland Browns. There's going to be a documentary that's going to go into the details of the trade for Deshaun Watson and just this entire regime. And I'm telling you, it's something that's going to come probably 15, 20 years from now. But if the Lord see fit for me to still be alive and to be able to see this, I cannot wait to consume that type of content, because all of us as fans have been curious for so long. I'm pretty sure everybody right now has heard and or read Dane Brugler's latest 2026 NFL mock draft, and it had the Cleveland Browns trading up to number 1 overall to select Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback out of Indiana. For those who are not familiar with his stats or with his bio, he's a junior, 6'5", 225, born in Miami, Florida. On the season, he got over 2,700 yards passing, 32 touchdowns, 5 interceptions with a 88.3 quarterback rating. James, this is a football team that has a lot of different holes to fill. They have a lot of different issues. Mm-hmm. Joe believes that the Tennessee Titans is the worst roster in the NFL. You know, some people believe that the Cleveland Browns own the worst roster in the NFL. Would you make that trade if you were the Cleveland Browns in that situation?
No. You did everything that you did last draft season to be able to stack assets to fill this roster. Now, granted, I'm not very high on filling this team with a whole bunch of players under 25 because there's a different set of problems that come with that approach. But I'm not throwing away what I built up on another hope and a prayer, especially when I spent 2 picks on this last year. And the fact that you're going to have to rebuild this entire offensive line. I can't be sending out capital to do that. Joe said that the Titans would love to have Carnell Tate. You know who would also love to have Carnell Tate?
Cleveland Browns
This guy.
fans.
No, yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, you may need that pick to go get a different guy that you really want who's a difference maker. And I think what we're seeing through the first 12 games with this team, we don't have a lot of playmakers on this team. We got about 2.5, maybe 3.5 if you want to give Jerry Jeudy some love. But I think you have to start to go get you some playmakers, and you got to rebuild this line. I mean, at the end of the day, you always win in the trenches. That's part of the reason why the defense is so good, right? Because we've had a solid defensive line for the last, conservatively, I can say, 6 years? The defensive line has been solid. Like, I really can't complain. We may want more, but I mean, it's been good enough, right? You ain't got no offensive lineman to combat anybody else's trenches. So I mean, at some point, you got to just go buy some meat and potatoes and some vegetables and stock your fridge with the basics and the essentials. You can't just keep chasing these waterfalls and chasing that lottery ticket. You got to go with the tried and true. So no, I don't want to make that trade. You know what I'm saying? Look, they gotta go with the tried and true. Take these 2 picks. If you're gonna trade, I'm okay with you moving up, but I don't want to just I don't want to go from 4-1. I don't want to go from 7-1. Make your picks. Go get the best guys on the board or the best guy at a position for need for you, and let's rock out.
Pretty interesting comments. Let's go out to Josh and Whitcliffe. What up, Josh? I think we like neighbors. I stay in Euclid. Whitcliffe and Euclid, they like neighbors, right?
Yeah, I was on the border right there by Forest Park.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's no way they should do that. I mean, come on. I mean, you've been talking about the offensive line and how possibly Wyatt Teller is the best of the five, and that doesn't say much, does it? I mean, you know, I look at Joe. I mean, did you see the play from fourth?
Yeah, that was rough to watch. I'm not even gonna lie. That was rough to watch.
Tonio and Conklin just whiffed, and it's like, of all the plays you guys want to, you know, come up with that, and they've been telling me how, you know, Mary Kay Cabot, and she's cute as a button, whatever, but, you know, she was saying, oh, Joe Batonio played lights out in that game. What was she watching? You know, what are you talking about? You know, and you know, they need so much help on the offensive line. Besides, you know, they could use other positions too. Mainly wide receiver, you know. And before you let me go, please, you know, hey, I love Jerry Rice, but you know, he was the one guy that I thought should have retired at least 1 year early, because, you know, when he was in that Seahawks uniform and you saw him play, it was like a shadow of himself, you know. But I still love the guy, and you know,
Josh,
you know.
Josh,
so thanks for taking
hold on,
my
Josh.
call,
Hold on,
guys.
Josh. I got a quick question for you. Are you familiar with the name Soulja Boy?
Barely, the rapper.
Yeah. That's what Teller.
Drake.
that's what the linemen were doing on them plays where they were where their stomach was flat, parallel to the ground. They were doing the Superman.
I'm gonna have to look at that. All right, thanks, guys.
I appreciate the phone
Josh.
call, Josh. That was some interesting perspective there. I'll tell you this: I wouldn't make the trade either. If it was me, I wouldn't make the trade either. You know, I've been asked this plenty of times, and this is one of the reasons why I cannot wait to watch this game later tonight, because this is going to be the biggest test of his college career against that Ohio State defense, a defense who ranks top 2 in every statistical category across the board defensively, right? A defense
who has they played?
a defense that has not given up more than 16 points to any opponent.
I'm on the board with
at any point this season, and it's one of those things to where he gonna have to go out there and show me, because, and it's really not a knock on him, it's just a knock on the entire situation. I personally believe that Dante Moore is gonna go back to school. I don't think the Oregon quarterback is gonna come out this year. I think he's gonna exercise the next year eligibility. He is going to become a seasoned collegiate player, and he's going to make himself even better, because it's not just about draft stock. Some people want to have sustained long NFL careers, right? And you want to get as much experience as you can as a starter. Now, of the quarterbacks that's been discussed, that the latest round of quarterbacks that's been discussed, Fernando Mendoza has the most starting experience. I'll give him that. But I find it hard to believe that out of nowhere, all of a sudden, guys like Ty Simpson, Fernando Mendoza, and Dante Moore are these top elite quarterback prospects, to where nobody was keeping that energy at the beginning of the year. Nobody of that was a quote unquote expert and do these type of, you know, like review of players, had these guys touted that high. And I get it. As things change, as information change, opinion changes, right? But it was the big five, right? It was the big five to start the
Sellers,
Manning, Aller, Nussmeier, Klubnik.
I ain't heard about Nussmeier since the.
And here we are, all of a sudden, at the back half of the season, and there's a new crop of quarterbacks that people believe are just all of a sudden, quote unquote, it. This is just me personally. I believe that Dante Moore is going back to school. I think Lenore Sellers is going back to school. I think Arch Manning is going back to school, right? I think those guys' ceilings are higher than anybody that's being talked about right now. I think 5 years from now, no matter how good it might look now, that you still want to have like an Arch Manning or Lenore Sellers in the long run. So why not take those picks and fill other positions on your roster that you know for a fact need to be filled, right? Like I just don't see it. And I could be totally wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Because like Joe, I ain't really had no solid evaluation of quarterbacks either.
I've heard you say this. I think you're a little hard on the quote-unquote experts. I think we get caught up on the quote-unquote experts a little too tough sometimes when it validates our opinion. The issue where we really stand is where the defense stands and for what you need on offense. If you can't figure out this quarterback and playmaker thing in time, you're going to miss your window for how long your defense is good. Granted, we've already said it's not perfect, but I mean, you got a Hall of Fame guy over there. He's not going to be Hall of Fame level forever. I mean, it would be hopeful that he makes it another 5 years at this pace. But I mean, let's be honest, it's probably 2 to 3, and it's the Browns. I mean, he could look. I'm not going to wood. I'm not holding all the wood I can. Okay, I'm not wishing injury on him, but it's the Browns. Okay, we've seen the strangest things have happened. So I mean, they're in this weird thing of, I don't know if I want to necessarily go take one of these quarterbacks because do I have the time to wait to develop him, or do I believe he's going to pop off immediately enough like a Russell Wilson where I got cheap money at quarterback, so now I can go really spend some money, but now we're cash strapped because of the salary cap thing. So I mean, they really need to hit these picks no matter what they choose to do. But I'm with you, make the picks, go bolster this roster in some of these areas that we're weak in. As we said, offensive line, we need a receiver. You low-key may need a nice running back just because of Samson's size. But you got to go fill these holes, man. We have to get some more pieces for this offense to have any kind of success, because I'm tired of looking at 200-yard passing games. I'm tired of looking at this offense barely scraping 300 yards of total yards like this. That is not a winning formula.
Also in this mock draft, it had the Las Vegas Raiders moving up to take Dante Moore, number 2. Again, I think Dante Moore is going back to school. New Orleans Saints at number 3 is taking Arville Reese, the Cleveland native, Ohio State prospect. And, New Orleans might be looking at this situation the same way I think I am with the Cleveland Browns. Knowing for a fact that they need a quarterback, they got Arville Reese as the first non-quarterback coming off the board. So you know what they tell me? That they too believe that the better prospects is in the 2027 draft class. And I'll throw Julian Saying in that bunch as well. And again, there's so many different reasons to be excited for tonight's game. Whether you cheer for the Buckeyes or you cheer for the Browns or you cheer for both, right? Because this is the guy that has risen to the top of the quarterback prospect list as that dude for this upcoming class. And he is going to get this is the biggest test, I say it again, of his collegiate career. And it's going to sway people's opinion one way or another, even though it's just one game. But it's going to sway people's opinion one way or another on what should happen as it pertains to the Cleveland Browns and trying to select Fernando Mendoza. But I'll say this as well. If the Browns is not high enough and you got other teams that's ahead of you and the Titans don't end up with the number 1 pick, you can kiss that pipe dream goodbye. Because if it's a quarterback needy team and jobs is on the line elsewhere in other organizations in other cities, I don't care if you is serving up 2 first-round picks. Why am I finna gift wrap a quarterback to you to make your organization better than mine, and I know I need one too? Well,
again, that was the same thinking that they had. I'm going to stockpile picks so I can fill all these other holes. So, I mean, they're just going to rob you too. So, but I think I would almost feel better if they wanted to trade down. I wouldn't want them to do that, but I don't want you to trade up and again, I know loading a team up with so many young guys and trying to take that swing at a quarterback is what they're going for, but one good draft ain't gonna convince me that you figured out your draft issues. Okay, I need some playmakers, man. We need more than Quinshawn Junkins, and again, he can only do so much with a shoddy offensive line. Like you have to. It's imperative. Without an offensive line, your running game is going to suffer, and then again, your quarterback is going to look like Cam Ward or how Shador's been looking his couple of weeks, where there's just not enough time, where they're so gun shy that they're speeding up their process. And now, what does this look like? It just looks like what we've been seeing. So they got to go add some pieces to this offense. Is what I want.